More than 50% of Borneo has been deforested in the past 40 years. Bornean orangutans are critically endangered. Is this the last generation? All of the non-human great apes are threatened with extinction. Orangutans, though, are perhaps the most endangered of our closest kin. We share something like 97% of our genomes, and yet there are perhaps less than 70,000 wild orangutans on the planet, and that is rapidly declining. Like most people, the orangutan was an animal I only saw on nature documentaries or in zoos, but I recently had the chance to head into their world. Orangutans once swung through the trees across Southeast Asia, from what is now China to their current range on Borneo and Sumatra. But 20,000 years ago, they nearly disappeared altogether. The Pleistocene was a climatically tumultuous time. Ice ages chilled the planet, changing rainfall patterns that would have fragmented the forests. Despite that, orangutans did well until the last ice age, which was about the time humans who had been in the area for tens of thousands of years developed more advanced tech. Arrows, which allowed them to hunt the denizens of the canopy. Only in the jungles far in the south of the orangutan's range were they able to hold on and recover as they vanished from mainland Asia. Today, these apes with their beautiful red hair are again in trouble. And while it is still possible, I wanted to see these not-so-distant cousins of ours in the wild. To reach the wild habitat of wild orangutans, the Sunda Islands, and more specifically the island of Borneo, I am in for a very long flight, crossing the Pacific. This involved a very long layover at the Incheon Airport in South Korea, which has some nice artistic areas to calm travelers. But more importantly, a nap zone, where a tired traveler who can never seem to sleep on a plane can lay down and take a nap. This is Pro Orangutan or No Orangutan, the palm oil industry quiz show. I am your host, the majestic and mysterious Kampasalot. With rampant deforestation in Southeast Asia, palm oil is big trouble for orangutans, and it is literally in everything. Today, our three contestants, the Wildlife Brothers, the Beckosphere, and all-Canadian Reptile Girl, will be playing for, well, we were going to go for a year's supply of tasty orang-u-tang, but Buzz Aldrin told us that it wasn't that great. So instead, our contestants will be playing for the knowledge that they know more about the palm oil industry, which is a better prize anyway. Why don't our contestants quickly introduce themselves and what they will do with all this knowledge about the palm oil industry?
Hi, I'm Becky from the Beckosphere, and I talk about climate change and clean energy. And with all this knowledge, I will be sure to find a better peanut butter.
Hey, I'm Evan, one half of the Wildlife Brothers, and with this knowledge, we'll hopefully be able to use some of the footage we got back in Costa Rica and Ecuador to make some videos about palm oil and explain its environmental impacts on our channel.
So I'm Harrison, I'm the other half of the Wildlife Brothers, and I think I want to use the knowledge that I gain here and then apply that to making more environmentally conscious decisions when I cook the things that I like to eat, and just try and make my impact a little bit more environmentally friendly, as it were.
Hi, I'm Annalise, the all-Canadian Reptile Girl, and I just want to learn more about an issue that is affecting us all and affects our day-to-day life in an almost unavoidable way. Want to do it more sustainably and, well, just better. So I hope to learn how to do that here.
Okay, everybody, welcome to round one. Because palm oil is an ingredient in literally everything, and like 200 different names it might be hidden with, I will show our contestants 3 products. 2 contain palm oil, 1 doesn't. They need to correctly identify the product that doesn't have palm oil to earn the point. Beckosphere. We're going to talk about candy. So we have Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, Reese's Pieces, and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups Holiday Shapes.
I'm going to guess that Reese's Pieces does not have palm oil.
That is incorrect. The original Reese's Peanut Butter Cup does not contain palm oil.
Really? I will feel less bad eating Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, which are my favorite candies.
The Wildlife Brothers. We're going to talk about cosmetics.
Okay.
Revlon lipstick, L'Oreal Paris lipstick, or Eau de Lique lipstick.
I'm not intimately familiar with any of those brands.
So, having read certain things about their impacts and also some of the work of their parent company, maybe L'Oreal would be my guess.
That actually was where my mind was going as well.
That is incorrect. Eau de Lique.
Eau de Lique.
The one I didn't recognize the name of.
All Canadian Reptile Girl. We're going to talk personal care products. Well, soap. Dove soap, Ethique soap, or Dr. Squatch soap.
I think I'm going to say Dove.
That is incorrect. Ethique. All right. We have reached round 2. Nobody currently has any points. But but this round will be where we talk about palm oil and climate change.
If I mess this up, it's going to be really embarrassing.
All right. Beccosphere. Southeast Asian haze is due to high amounts of organic particulate matter from tropical fires and hazardous to people and wildlife. What percentage of the fires causing this is due to the fires in peatland, which are 10% of the forest area and are being primarily burned to expand palm oil? 10%, 40%, or 60%?
I'm going to go with 40%.
That is correct.
Yes!
To the Wildlife Brothers. What percentage of global CO2 emissions are caused by the draining and burning of Southeast Asian peatlands? Again, primarily for the expansion of the palm oil industry. 0.01 to 0.05%, 0.12 to 0.36%, or 0.44 to 0.74%.
Of global emissions are driven by this practice.
Palm oil is the most efficient of the, essentially the
But it's more
vegetable
about
fuels that we use. But how much land do they have to clear to make room for it? Because it does.
Right, and the burning of the peat, which I guess would also be a carbon sink if it's
Right.
like other peat wetlands. Logical sense to also go with the mid-range percentages, just because of how carbon dense I know peat wetlands can be.
Yeah, I was thinking either the mid or high range percentages for that reason.
Consensus on the middle?
Yeah.
That is incorrect. It is 0.44 to 0.74%.
It is the high range.
All right, All Canadian Reptile Girl. A global average temperature rise of 1 degree Celsius would cause a palm oil production decline by 5%, 10%, or 20%.
I'm gonna say 10%.
10% is correct.
Yay!
Okay, we are in the final round. Beccosphere and Annalise both have 1 point. The Wildlife Brothers still do not have any points. So, in this final round, we will be discussing the truth about sustainable palm oil, which is essentially defined as halting deforestation, creating habitat zones for wildlife, transparent supply chains, treating workers fairly, reporting carbon emissions, and limiting planting in peatlands. Is this just a bunch of greenwashing? We are going to explore some of the successes of those goals through these last questions. Beccosphere. So, from round 1, of the companies who produce products with palm oil in them, how many have a palm oil sustainability commitment? There were 7 companies in total.
I'm going to guess that 4 of them have a commitment.
Incorrect. All 7 have a commitment. The Wildlife Brothers. Has sustainable palm oil curtailed deforestation? This is a yes, no, or maybe so kind of question?
My gut instinct is to say no. On a larger scale, I
would say not
I've
yet,
done some
at least.
reading, but I don't think overall it has curtailed deforestation from its current rate. So I'm going to say no.
Not as of yet.
That is correct. In the last 30 years, rainforests, specifically home to large mammals, have been replaced by supposedly sustainable palm oil plantations. This is probably because the Round Table on Sustainable Palm Oil made it only a requirement to stop deforestation in 2018, after 14 years of this organization's existence. It's up to All Canadian Reptile Girl. Everyone is currently tying with 1 point. Can you break that tie? Does sustainable palm oil reduce local poverty? Yes, no, or maybe so.
That's a bit of a loaded question, I think. While the palm oil industry supports a lot of people, it's their livelihood, there are a lot of issues and concerns with unfair wages, child labor, and just a whole bunch of human rights violations. So, however, if it's the companies that have had RSPO certification, they have some regulations in place for fair labor. So I'm going to say yes, overall.
Ooh, this will be... I'm trying to decide if we should go with this. I have maybe so. Communities with market-driven economies typically benefit from sustainable palm oil. Subsistence communities do not. I think we might give this to All Canadian Reptile Girl just because she made a lot of very valid points leading up to it. So that means All Canadian Reptile Girl wins. No orangutan or pro-orangutan. After my layover in Korea, it was off to the south, straight to the island of Borneo. I guess I was unsure exactly what I would find, as nature documentaries tend not to do a great job of illustrating the context of wildlife in the modern world, something I myself have been guilty of. But my reach isn't that of the BBC. Would everything just be a giant palm oil plantation? Well, the first 2 days I spent in Kota Kinabalu, the main city in the Malaysian state of Sabah, which has lots of wildlife street art. Look, this one even has the YouTube symbol, as if the world was asking you to like and subscribe. While staying here, I, of course, did a few trips out of town, like to Mount Kinabalu to bird and sea pitcher plants. Deforestation this way was primarily for housing. I don't think I saw any African oil palm on the trip up. It was a different story when I went down the Clyas River to see some proboscis monkeys, which, while perhaps not quite as famous as orangutan, are still an iconic Bornean primate. On the way here, I passed a lot of palm oil, great stretches of the monoculture, and I would be seeing a lot more on other parts of the island, especially as I was headed to the green heart of Borneo, which required crossing over the island in a prop plane. And like when I flew into the Amazon, it is from the air one can really see the extent of human impact on the surface of the Earth. What looks like a lush canopy is oddly uniform and strangely geometrical, perfectly straight roads and arbitrary property lines showing that this is not a biodiverse rainforest, but oil palm. It makes sense that oil palm would be everywhere, as my flight was going to Lahad Datu, the closest city to the protected Danum Valley, but is also home to several enormous palm oil refineries, and that is the town's main economic export. This is where I do want to say the industry has many allegations about human rights violations due to how workers are treated in these hot, cobra-infested, pesticide-filled monocultures. Finally, after traveling across the island, I was on my way to the green heart of Borneo and the realm of wild orangutans. Leaving behind the mansions of people rich on palm oil in the city, then out into the country through palm oil plantations, homes hidden among the trees, until finally into secondary forest. As I get farther and farther away from civilization, the trees begin to get bigger. Though these areas were selectively logged quite recently, so many large valuable hardwoods are missing from the canopy skyline. The forest grows denser and denser until finally I arrive in Danum Valley, one of the most ancient rainforests on Earth. There has been a rainforest here since the early Cretaceous, which, while much of Danum's Mesozoic ecosystem would have been destroyed by the space rock that took out the non-avian dinosaurs on a particularly bad day for life on Earth, some of the species here definitely look like they have roots in that past. And some, like the great Argus pheasant or rhinoceros hornbill, are in fact living dinosaurs. But as it has been since the loss of large dinosaurs, mammals dominate the forest. From the small to the large to the just really strange. There is also an exceptional diversity of primates, from the glowing orange eyes of a slow loris to troops of diurnal monkeys, some with spectacularly colored fur, like the maroon leaf monkey. There are also apes, gibbons brachiating through the trees and filling the morning air with their duets. The largest wild primate out here, though, are the orangutans, the forest people, as the name roughly translates to in Malay. I hope to meet a distant cousin in their home in this forest. But like so many species here, orangutans travel widely through the forest, following the fruiting of trees, so finding one may take a little luck. So after reading about all the challenges with finding orangutans on the internet, luck was something I had. After seeing many monkeys around the world, from the beaches of Costa Rica to the depths of the Amazon and along Bornean rivers, I was surprised by how quietly and deliberately orangutans move through the trees. This struck me as them clearly thinking through each move they make, moving between tasty forest snacks like figs, durian, and fresh leaves. Orangutan days start early, so they go to bed well before the blazing tropical sun dips below the mountains, and the forest is shrouded in darkness. Like us, orangutans like a comfy bed, which they need to build from the canopy foliage around them, giving new meaning to making your bed. This orangutan carefully moves and snaps the branches to create a comfortable place to sleep, with a mattress, maybe some pillows of leaves. I love pillows. You love pillows, maybe, and some orangutans love them too. Just need to break that branch. Perfect. Now, as I talked about how nature documentaries often lack some context, these orangutans were not in primary forest, but in the middle of the only buildings in the area. This orangutan is sleeping in a tree surrounded by homes. This orangutan was next to a house. I filmed this guy from a porch. This young orangutan was next to the main road, which made me want to ask a question. What does the future hold for this cute little orangutan? Will these beautiful red apes be able to hold on? So to try and see what the future holds, it makes sense to begin with palm oil. That is what we have been talking about for most of this video, and is often reported as the most immediate existential threat to orangutan going forward. But this is where I subvert what you are expecting. Despite the existing devastation and all these enormous plantations, Malaysia and Indonesia's deforestation rates have been slowing, while rates in the Amazon and other tropical countries are stable or accelerating. The Malaysian state of Sabah is also aiming to fully transition to palm oil that meets the recommendations of the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil by 2025, so next year. While we already have talked about the imperfect nature of sustainable palm oil, this is at least a step for ensuring a future for orangutans in the wild, though it seems suitable land for oil palm plantations is also running out. While deforestation alone would cause a total loss of habitat of 15 to 30% by 2080, climate change scenarios point to a habitat reduction of around 74% by then. Suitable orangutan habitat is heavily driven by a few environmental factors that the coming climate chaos will upset. The amount of precipitation in the driest month is important, as is the average annual temperature range, and distance to wetland habitat are all important factors modeling has found to predict orangutan habitat. And in a changing climate, it is expected that these will shift. Thus, curbing carbon emissions and avoiding climate chaos is key to the survival of our forest cousins. However, renewable energy just doesn't magically not have an environmental impact. Palm oil is actually used as a biofuel, sold fully greenwashed to Europe. At the same time, while understudied, the ground underneath Borneo seems to be rich in rare earth elements, materials critical for renewable energy like solar panels and wind turbines. To get at them, they have to be mined, which means habitat destruction, a similar situation to the great apes of Africa, which are threatened by the loss of habitat as rare minerals like coltan are mined from under the forest, which are then used in nearly all electronics. The mining process is inefficient, often requiring acid and other potentially harmful chemicals to separate the minerals. These chemicals, mixed with heavy metals, can contaminate groundwater and be harmful to the miners and local communities. We are replacing one harmful industry with another for the noble goal of going green and giving more people access to electricity and the internet. One would hope we would want such an industry to be careful and to avoid perpetuating the sins of the past. Capitalist greed, though, will not allow us to break the cycle. Electronics with these precious materials are designed to break after a few years, so you have to get a new phone or computer. Planned obsolescence must be ended for the sake of ecosystems like those of Borneo. It is also critical that existing rare earth metals in old electronics are recycled to help fill some of the demand for these precious resources. But that is not going to be enough. We still need to mine, but safe mining is more expensive, and when profits are all that matters, safety is ignored. Then people and wildlife pay the price, poisoned by cutting corners and not carefully mitigating effluents. Beyond the extractive resources, human impacts on Borneo are only going to intensify. In 2022, the Indonesian government voted to begin the process of relocating the capital from Jakarta on Java, the second largest city in the world, to Borneo. The reason is logical. Parts of Jakarta are doomed. The land beneath it is sinking in some places at the same time sea levels are rising. By 2050, a third of the city's area will be under the ocean. This relocation will result in a mass migration to Borneo, as all governmental and likely many commercial activities will relocate, along with a worker force to keep it all running. Jakarta has more residents than the entire island of Borneo. All the new people moving here will undoubtedly put pressure on the environment and threaten orangutans, along with all the other creatures that call the island's forests home. Large roads will be constructed to help move product across the island, fragmenting forest. People may move from the city into the country, increasing habitat loss at a time climate change makes many areas uninhabitable for orangutan populations. Orangutans are also still hunted across their range, for food, out of fear, retribution for crop raiding, and to capture infants. Today, infant orangutans caught and sold into the illegal wildlife trade are typically shipped to Jakarta before being bought up by wealthy individuals. But with the capital moving to a short car ride away from orangutans, this probably will only get worse. It is, however, not all doom and gloom. By meeting orangutans that had come to feed in an area that had been transformed by the construction of lodging for the staff and visitors to Danum Valley, I hope I was able to show that they can, sometimes, live in close proximity to us. There are still some mysteries to answer about how the two of us can coexist. Some orangutans can be found in palm oil plantations, and while they seem to need more natural rainforests to feed and sleep, we need more information to understand orangutan use and long-term viability in such areas. However, using information about the long history of orangutans and people that I briefly mentioned at the beginning and these additional threats we just talked about, we get a different picture on how to protect orangutans. That deforestation alone isn't the issue. It is hunting and the destruction of connection between orangutan populations that are the biggest threats. That is probably the key to a better future, not relying on preserving what is left, but engaging community buy-in. We need to halt poaching, and we need people to invest in more complex land management. This reminds me of the radical conservation idea of whole Earth conservation, which came out in opposition to the overambitious Half-Earth project, which said, hey, let's strictly segregate the planet, half for the people, half for all the other species, which is infeasible and has massive inequity issues, along with being the final solution to the very problematic view of humans and nature as separate. Whole Earth conservation moves beyond the protected area model and seeks to rejoin humanity and the natural world to take on the actual causes of biodiversity loss, not just leave half of the planet alone and destroy the rest. Orangutans and humans have cohabited in Southeast Asia for millennia. They can coexist, share space, and thrive. The root causes of what is causing orangutans to decline, wealth inequity leading to increased instance of poaching and slash-and-burn agriculture, and creating those who purchase orangutan infants as status symbols. Or corporate greed not balancing the need to go green and give energy and educational access to all, and just make a bunch of money from selling fancy electronics in the global north by not being careful how those materials were obtained. To protect this world and the beautiful ecosystems here, we must amend the system to have equity for all people, along with our close cousins, the orangutans, and by extension, the rest of life. I hope you enjoyed my adventure through the jungles of Borneo to meet some wild great apes, and discussing how we can ensure they have a future. I have also made a video specifically talking about the deforestation of the Amazon basin and how to resolve it. I think you will find that video really interesting.